What up, good people? It's your folk J Cam with another episode of In the Car with My People. So I know it's been a minute. It's been a while since I put out an episode, and there's a couple of reasons why. So, as you know, this podcast started with me just interviewing people in my life, family members, friends, uh, in the car itself. So, I've kind of ventured in getting out of the car and doing interviews, and that's something I probably will continue to do in the long run. But even more so than that, about a couple of months ago, I actually had a pretty serious car accident in the car that I was doing the interviews in. So fortunately, through the blessings of God, although my car was total and completely destroyed, I was totally injury free. I literally did not get any bumps and bruises. Like a week or two after that accident, I actually bumped my leg on the table and got more damage from bumping my leg on the table than I did in that car accident. I was traveling down a road in the town I live in Clarksville, going about 50 miles per hour, and a car just literally pulled out in front of me, and I hit that car. I T-boned the back end of that car, destroying my car that I was doing the interviews in. Through the blessings of God, again, I wasn't hurt. It was that person's fault. I had no issues. Maybe 2 weeks later after the accident or so, I got another car. I actually got two cars out of it. I actually got the car that I wanted, and then from money from that accident paying off my car, I actually bought another everyday kind of like quote unquote a beater from that. So in the long run, the accident, although it sucked going through it, I was shook up from a psychological standpoint, but I didn't have anything physically from it. It didn't burden me or hurt me in any way financially, but it did kind of shake me up from a psychological standpoint because I'm 46 years old. I've had my driver's license for 30 years, and I've never been in an accident that severe, that bad in my entire life. So it did have a little psychological thing. For like the first week or so, maybe 10 days or so, I wouldn't even go down that road no more. If I could avoid it, I was just trying to stay out of that way. To this day, I'm super cautious, and when people kind of like pulling out to make turns and things ahead of me, I get a little leery and weary about it. But for the most part, I'm cool. But in regards to the podcast, not having that car that I started in, and with me doing more interviews outside of the car, I considered rebranding the podcast, calling it something different, doing something different with it, because I wanted to continue podcasting, but I saw myself getting more and more out of the car to do interviews in my vision. And in the last couple interviews I've done, I was like, I don't know if I want to keep calling it In the Car with My People. But I decided to just continue to keep calling it In the Car with my people. Maybe at some point or different interviews, I might get back in the car, but I'm starting to get more comfortable with wanting to do kind of more traditional podcasting interviews outside the car. But for now, I decided to continue to call it In the Car with My People. I do have plans to maybe doing a different or another podcast outside of the In the Car with My People. But that's still something I'm thinking about and developing. I do want to continue the In the Car with My People because literally the people that I'm interviewing are people who are in my life in one way or another, have had an impact on me one way or another. So I want to kind of continue that theme of being able to talk to and interview people that are near and dear to me in one way or another. So this particular episode we're going to get into, about a month or so ago, I traveled to Belleville, Michigan to interview one of my closest and dearest friends, more like a brother than a friend, Gerald Edwards the second. Gerald and I went to college together. So Gerald is someone I met I knew about prior to my senior year through another friend of mine, but he actually came to my school, the college I went to, Heidelberg, my senior year at Heidelberg. And that 1 year at Heidelberg, he and I developed a really close friendship. Gerald is originally from Michigan. I won't say a relationship, but his father was someone I met before I met him. His father's a Heidelberg alum. His father worked closely with African-American students or Black students at Heidelberg. And a friend of mine named Alonzo worked for Gerald's father for a period of time, and that's how I heard about Gerald. But like I said, he came to Heidelberg my senior year. He played football at Heidelberg, but not the year that I was there. So it just so happens that Gerald's originally from Michigan. I moved to Michigan after college. I would go to visit him and my homeboy Pete when after I graduated. So we continued our friendship through that. And after he graduated, he moved back to Michigan, and of course we continued our friendship. But when he came back to Michigan, I was playing semi-pro ball. He started playing semi-pro ball. So we played semi-pro football together for 3 years. So in our friendship and our relationship as friends, and like I said, more like brothers now, continued to develop after that. So I took a trip up to Michigan to interview my homeboy, Gerald. And that's this particular episode of In the Car with My People. Just giving you a little forewarning. This is one of the part of the podcast, and you start experimenting with different things. So I'm started to experiment some with the use of microphones. So in this particular episode, the audio is at some points low because when using a microphone, sometimes we aren't holding it close enough to our mouth. Sometimes it's too close to our mouth. So excuse the audio, but take time to raise the volume so you can hear everything and not be in a loud place. It's still a good episode. I'm sure we'll do another episode where the audio will be a little clearer with he and I, but it's a good episode itself as far as the content and the information. Just understand there's some little audio quality things that we're still working on in regards to our podcast. But take a listen up to it. You're going to like it. It's a fun episode. You'll enjoy it. Again, we're back. In the Car with My People is back. And our first episode since the accident is coming up with my boy Gerald Edwards II. See you in a bit. Peace. We're back with another episode of In the Car with My People. Today's a special guest. come up to Belleville, Michigan to interview one of my very, very closest friends in the world. Somebody I met, well, it's been 23, it's weird to say, 23 years ago. My senior year at Heidelberg College then, which is Heidelberg University now. One of the best people I know. Brother that's really contributed a lot of positivity in my life. One of the greatest human beings I know, my boy, Gerald Edwards.
Man, I appreciate the intro, man. I'm gonna try to live up to all of that. I don't know, man. You set the bar high, so we'll see what we can do. But no, it's a pleasure. You know, pleasure on different levels. One, just to support a creative project that you're working on, but furthermore, just linking with the homie, like you said, 23 years. Man, I remember the first day.
Oh, wait for this.
The first day I met J. Ken. So I'm on campus and uh my dad's like, "Oh yeah, I want to introduce you to James." And so he's like, he's gonna meet us. I don't even remember exactly where we were, but we're walking and I see this massive figure come out of one of the halls. I don't know which one it was. At the time, I think you had locks. Yeah. And like as he's walking closer, I'm like, this dude is a massive dude, man. And then you got up on me, and I told Shay Ken, I was like, I looked at you, right, a big dude, but then I looked down, I was like, feet was like like 9 or 10 or
They
something.
look like, yeah.
And it's funny to me because, like, you what, 6'2"?
I'm 6'2", yep.
All right, he's 6'2", right? With a, we're
I
a
wear
10.
like I wear like 11.
11, right? I'm 5'8" and I wear 12. Like, so it was hilarious. I was like, man, this guy's the size I should be for my feet and vice versa. So it was funny, man. But man, it's interesting just because I had heard your name before. You know, my dad had talked about you because he also graduated from Heidelberg. But man, like one of the greatest people I've met, man. One of the main reasons why being at Heidelberg was a good experience for me, just because I was able to, I mean, we used to kick it all the time, man, and so, um, yeah, man, you grew from, friend to like brother now, man. So, it's one of those things where, um, yeah, man, you my brother. So, no matter if you like it or not, man, like, you got me, dog.
For sure.
For sure. I'm glad to be a part of this.
So we met. It was kind of because it was my senior year at Heidelberg, and you had transferred from Lakeland, right?
Yep.
And you were classified then as a sophomore, junior.
Classroom year, I think. Yeah.
Right. You graduated 2 years after me.
Yeah. So I was. Yeah.
So so I'll kind of give the background. So Gerald's dad was an alum of Heidelberg. He also was basically started I guess it was like kind of like a Black alumni network sort of at Heidelberg, because Heidelberg then, and probably not much different now. It was very, very few, small school, about 1,100 total students at the school, maybe 700-800 on campus. And like my senior year, we probably had how many Black students on campus? Maybe 20 something, 20 something. So I learned about Gerald's dad through my other homeboy Alonzo. So Alonzo went to Heidelberg, was there my first couple of years, and then when he graduated, he moved to Michigan and worked for Gerald's dad's company. So that's when I first heard about, like, I would talk to Alonzo every once in a while. He would kind of mention you here and there, like Mr. Edwards' son, Gerald, or whatever. But then I found out you were coming to Heidelberg, so I was kind of like, I tell people I was kind of like what Ice Cube was in higher learning. Like I had been there forever. Like I was like the super duper senior. And I always like to talk to the Black students to help them. So Heidelberg you would have the few Black students, but people come from a different background. And you have Black students who before Heidelberg were used to being around an environment like that.
people like me who came from like bigger cities, never really been in school environments where you were that big of a minority. So when I saw people who were like similar black background to me, I was like, let me meet with them and kind of get you on, let you know how it operates here and how you could come to Heidelberg and survive. Because I was one of those people that came to Heidelberg and had trouble adjusting. And so when I found out you were coming, I was like, let me just meet and talk with you. And the other thing that's funny, you said when you first met me, like, oh, this big dude, all right, I got small feet. And then I opened my mouth. He was like, what? Like, he expected my voice to be way deeper. I just sound like me. He was like, man, what's wrong with this dude? So, because I had so much respect for your dad, things that he had done for me prior to that, and so I wanted to, welcome you to the campus. And I never thought that we would get as tight as we were, but it coincided with like two things that year. So my boy Pete, who had went to Heidelberg, I was a sophomore, he was a freshman. We played football there. Pete's out of school. I sat out of school for a year, and then he came back to Heidelberg that year. You came to Heidelberg, and then Jermaine came to Heidelberg, and then we all kind of like me and Pete was roommates at first, and then um me, Jermaine, and Pete were just kind of around each other a long time. And I think our bond just grew there. Some other stuff that happened I didn't even talk about with some people that I was cool with before then, but that was what it was. And we just got tight. Like we played, used to come to our room, we played spades all the time. We just Dreamcast was out. Like you had got the cast, so we was just around each other all the time. And like we only had known each other basically that 1 year, but got like really tight in that 1 year. So talk about like what that some of the experiences you had at Heidelberg that 1 year with us being there, that group up. It was our main four was me, you, Jermaine, and Pete. What was it about that 1 year experience that allows you to stay there long, just want to stay there even after I left and graduated?
Well, I think you being the very first person that I met, of course, like that just to your point, like you want to see someone that looks like and not only that, like I like I said, I heard your name. My dad had talked about you, spoke very highly of you, so I was excited to meet you. And the fact that you welcomed me with open arms, like it was just an instant connection. But once the other guys got there, it's like I think the biggest thing was everyone was a new fish in the pond. So there, outside of you, but like there was no like ego, there was no like um negative attitude or anything. It was just like, hey, y'all my little brothers here. I'm gonna look out for you guys, kind of show you the rope. And those individuals who were open to that ended up being, us. And then not only that, then when dorm assignments came out, then I ended up we all were in the same dorm on different floors. I think that made a huge difference because that's really what caused us to hang out more because it was like I don't sit in my room,
Right,
you know. But I think just your not just like what you said, like as far as like, hey, here's kind of the ropes here, do this, don't do that, try to stay away from this stuff. But it was really more about what what I saw you doing, like, me, I was more I'm hanging out, kicking it.
right.
Ken was studying. He was like, and then even when I was struggling in a math course, like you would like tutor me, and you know what I'm saying. So like it was you genuinely you like looked out for us. You made sure that we were straight. And that's really what creating that momentum, with you there your senior year helped me to kind of find my place and then be able to connect with, a couple of guys, the first year and end up, you know, making even more friends, the second year I was there. That made all the difference in the world. Just being able to interact with people who were at my level as far as all of us being new, but also your kind of knowledge that you had been around.
I'm gonna tell you what one of the things that I think that impressed me and I guess it drew me to being like, oh, this is I like this dude is that when you came to Heidelberg as far as a black student, not black student, you were in a much different financial situation than most of us. And because like I remember you pulled up like I remember he pulled up in the gold Denali. I mean the first year the Denali's came out, he pulled up in the 99, 2000, 99 or 2000 Denali. And we all knew what your background was before then. And I wasn't sure. I was like, man, what is he gonna think about us? Bruh, you was just a regular college student that just so happened to have a Denali, bro. You was in that dorm room. We was all putting our little change together, our change together to get that large pizza. It wasn't like you was like flashing anything. It's been some days. It's like, bro, you hungry?
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, you hungry?
Right.
I got five. You got five. That's a large from Marcos, bro. It wasn't like man, and it wasn't like and like you never. I feel like sometimes like the respect you have for us, you never threw nothing in our face. Like a lot of kids, and it was funny is like I used to walk around. You know, Heidelberg, most we black kids at a mostly white school, and I feel like sometimes they look down on us because they came from backgrounds, and they did the same with you, not knowing. Like I'm like y'all just don't know, but you never look down on us, man, and like you you seamlessly fit in, and I think your background was that it's, at one point in your life you just like the rest of us, right? And so you kind of saw your father build something, and so you when you came there, you was just like all of us, man. It wasn't any. You didn't try to make it seem like you were better than us, because there was, it was some we know it was some black kids at Heidelberg that looked down upon certain groups of us because of we really wasn't even though we at this all white institution, we had a very small group of black students there. I was there for almost 5 years. I always hung with nothing but black students, whether it was 20 of us or it was 10 of us. That's who I was comfortable around. The one thing I think separated me from some other students there, after I had my rough freshman year, had to sit out a semester and came back, my focus was different. It's like, this is who I want to be around, but I'm here to get this degree. I'm gonna find a way, and that's what I did with y'all. Like I learned Heidelberg is a game. It was a game. I'm like, it's all a game. I was like, look, these are the rules of Heidelberg. I had some. I should tell people one thing at Heidelberg because it's small. They're gonna take attendance. If you go to class every single day, you're gonna get a C. You're gonna get a C. You put a little bit of effort in, you're gonna get a B. And if you put your nose to the grind, you're gonna be straight. And so that's the game I learned. Like I've always kind of been a homebody, and in college that's how I was. You can find me. I'm either gonna be in practice, I'm gonna be in class, I'll be where that food at. I'm gonna be in my room. You can always find me. All right. So and that's why I always when Black students first came out, I reached out. Now, and if it looked like you don't care, I ain't wasting my time. But I knew you was there to get a degree, and it was fun, man. It was man. We had some fun while I was there. Me, you, PG, and man. So for my senior year, man, it was awesome having y'all there. Anything else you remember from there? Any times or any events or anything from that one year we were together at Heidelberg?
Yeah, I mean, I will address something that you did mention earlier. I mean, as far as like way I treat people, it's like, man, none of that stuff matters as far as that, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't define my character, right? And if you don't have those possessions, that doesn't define you.
Right.
So I'm not going to mistreat anyone based on what they have or don't have. And then what you do have, I feel like it's vitally important the way that my parents raised me. It's like you have that so that you can let somebody else, right? So it was like if I had a whip and you needed a ride, let's go. You know what I'm saying? And if I had a Denali, well, guess what? 8 of us can go. You know,
right,
so like,
exactly. That's what
and that was kind of the thought process. It was never like I'm better than anyone. I've never been that type of person, being flashy. So that's the first thing. So I think, those individuals that may have still looked down on all of us and not really knowing anything about myself or anybody else. For me, I don't care because it's like I don't. If you're gonna look down on me for what you think I have or don't have, I really don't want to deal with you anyway. You know what I'm saying? And so, but here's what you're not. You're not gonna disrespect me or anybody else that I care about. Anyone that try to do that, got a line. Well, you already know, man. You getting checked. You know what I'm saying? Like real quick. And so that's kind of my thought process about that. I think when I look back on it, the things to make me chuckle was like, again, man, you're like you was so much bigger than I was, and but like I can remember, man, like hitting you up after we look. So because James didn't work out that hard until your senior year, right? Until after your senior year football, right? So I was in the gym. That was my passion. I love lifting, so I got James in the gym, and so we start hitting it hard. So when we're talking 2-3 hours in the gym, like we were young, so it was whatever. We had nothing else to do. So we were eating the calf, and then later that night, man, I was starving, and so I remember multiple times it was either Marco's Pizza or remember that sub place? They had a campus It was either a pizza or a sub. And when I think back, I think we went probably maybe 10 days straight, each of us eating a large pizza or a sub. And the subs were like 18-inch subs every day. Like, it was crazy. And so I remember a couple of times you looking at me like, bro, like, how are you eating all of that food? But like, we were working out. We didn't, it was a small school, so I wasn't really. Again, it was like I would go out, have drinks and stuff like that. But it was like I'm either in your room eating or I'm lifting. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of what it was, just simply because I was in a triplet room, so it was 3 of us. It was never quiet. That was later on. That was after you left. I was in a single in King.
First year started when you first came. They messed up.
It was like 4 or 5 of us.
And what was a
girls' dorm?
A den, like
it was a den. Yeah. That's what it was. Yep.
And then I was an RA over in King.
Yep. Yeah.
And then you got an opportunity to get a single.
Yeah, I got a single over there.
Everybody was over at King.
Yep.
Pete was down the hall.
Yep.
Me and Pete was on the first floor.
Yep. I was on the second floor.
Man was across.
He was across on the other side.
On the other side of King.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So we always over there together.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun. And then we got into some battles. Remember that big water fight?
That was the best, man. Until that one dude messed it up, bro.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'll let you tell that part.
I'm trying to see if I can remember how. I know Chad was involved when it messed up.
So I remember, like, it was kind of like King against
what was that? Not Williard. What was that called? Miller. That's where Chad and
one of the Willard or
Miller or something like that. So we was basically had a water gun fight, and we would catch them in their dorm. They'd catch us in our dorm. One day we was sitting in Gerald's room. We chilling. The door closed, and then we look down, and this water just pouring into the room.
Yeah.
And you lost it. He came out the room, and I guess the dude that did it tried to go in another room. They was drunk. I think they was drunk too. I feel like there was alcohol involved.
But he wasn't involved.
He wasn't involved in the water fight. So what he basically did was fill a garbage can full of water. Now remember, we using super soakers. We spraying each other, water balloons, stuff like that. This dude just took a garbage can, filled it up with water, and just laid it down in front of your room.
And
all that water rushed into his room, bruh.
I had shoes on the floor. I had stuff like that.
You still had you had your snake in there on the floor.
Yep.
Man, all I say is, man, I had to say that other dude's life.
Oh yeah,
I had to save his life.
He got out of line, right? He
was,
yeah. And the thing that was upsetting about that situation was, again, he had nothing to do with it. Like, there was a big group of us going, playing around. Those all the bros, just acting crazy. And when we had locked ourselves in my room because the other guys that came through, and then he had nothing to do with it. He was like, "Oh man," and I guess he had told Chad that he was going to do it, and Chad was like, "No, you're not." And then he went and did it,
Anyway, right.
and then Chad was the one who told me who did it.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, I say that dude's life, and then we had another situation sometime later where Gerald had to save somebody's life for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say I'm gonna get a quick version. So I don't drink ever. I don't drink. I don't really drink, and I never really left the dorm. So Gerald was like, "Man, just come out with me." I came out with the bros one night. This is towards the end of my senior year, so I'm just. No, it was like before Christmas break my senior year. I'm gonna go, chill, and this when them Jack Daniels coolers first came out, so they didn't taste that bad. So I had some. I had like 4 of them.
You got a 4-pack.
4-pack. Smashed it. And like, so I don't drink. So I'm like, so we in the party. This brother that played on the football team that was, me and him used to be cool here and there. I'm drunk and he talking to a girl I used to mess with. He talking to her. I'm looking at, and I mean, I don't know, he might just be having a general conversation. But I just didn't like him talking to her. So I'm like, I'm getting hot. So Gerald like, man, chill, calm down. And he stands in front of me, so I don't say nothing. Well, Gerald gets distracted. Dude walks past me. I grabbed him by the collar, picked him up on the floor, and just pinned him up against the wall, off his feet. And Gerald grabbed me, get pissed off, take me out the party. And man, I tell you, this dude scolded me like he was my daddy. From the party all the way back to the dorm, scolded me like, "You wrong. You know that's wrong." He literally scolded me, and I'm sitting there like a kid, like let him talk to me like that. I'm toe up, man. But that's he saved that dude life, man, because I was about to tear homeboy up. But me and him, that dude try to reconcile it. That's a whole nother story. I don't even get too deep into that. But long story short, he looked out for me. I looked out. We kept us from, getting in any trouble or anything like that. And I think that's the 4 of us. I think me, you, Pete, and Jermaine that year. It was funny for me as a senior. It's my last year, and Pete had been there before. But you and Jermaine were there for your first year. But it was like I'm this older cat. And all my homeboys, the young brothers, and but that's who I was cool with. You know what I'm saying? It made my senior year fun. I had a great time my senior year at Heidelberg. So so I'm gonna go from our years at Heidelberg. So I graduated from Heidelberg, and what's funny is I graduated from Heidelberg, and you're from Michigan, like we are right now. And because of the person I was dating, she went to Michigan State. I followed her to Michigan State. I was there about 6 months. Not even 6 months. Her and I break up, but I stay in Michigan. I stay in Michigan for uh 5 years. So after I graduated and moved to Michigan, that first year I was in Michigan though, I was coming back to Heidelberg on a regular basis. I used to be there like at least a couple times a month coming down the road. But a couple years later you graduate and then you move to Michigan. And I think that's when we got like really tight. Because even though I lived in Michigan, those first 2 years, man, I ain't gotta do nothing. And then you move back up here and I started making those trips down here and I think that's when we got pretty tight.
Yeah, I mean, and then you would come to the crib for like Thanksgiving and like so anytime we had like a cookout or something, man, James would show up. And he was a part of the family. I mean, you were here in Michigan, man, and even back to what you were talking about previously at the Berg, like one of the things that I understood was like those individuals. It's not the dudes that when you're hanging out that are you're partying with that are the ones that mean the most to you. It's when you have a situation where maybe you're about to make a wrong decision and they like stop you, or maybe they advise you to in the right direction. Those are the ones where you like, okay, I got to keep these brothers close. You know what I'm saying? And I can count on one hand the people that I interact with that are those types of brothers, and I tell all of them like, nah, y'all are family. You know what I'm saying? Like relatives and family, two different things. You know, relatives, bloodline, family, those are people you choose to really like lock arms with and stick with, for lifetime. But um, yeah, man, I think when after I graduated, man, and you were here, it was almost like an extension of the bird, but just at a different level. And then I think, just from that prior relationship, and then your senior year, um, I didn't play
You play ball.
football, and then you graduated, and then I played, and then like you mentioned the Admirals, the semi-pro team, and I was like, this would be a chance for us to like actually play ball together. Which I think that just, it,
That just solidified.
yeah, man, that was a game changer, man. Like me, because that was some of the as far as when I look back, as far as my athletic career, those couple of years, man, were like the most fun. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So you mentioned it. So I played football at Heidelberg all 4 years. I was there. Gerald had transferred. Yeah, played football at Lakeland, and then when you transferred to the Bird, at that time you couldn't play right away. So my senior year, you couldn't play, but you used to come all the home games, hang out with the squad and everything. Then I graduated, and then you played the next 2 years, and I would come down watch you because you PG, I think Jermaine played, so you guys played. But when I moved to Michigan, so I moved to Michigan in 2000, and then I was up there for um, I was up there in 2002. I heard about this semi-pro. I lived in Lansing at the time. I heard about a semi-pro team in Flint, and I went and checked it out, and I went and played. So your first summer back home
Yep.
was my first year with the ads.
Yep.
So you didn't play, but I was like, I was trying to convince you to play that next year. And I think you were kind of hesitant because semi pro is a lot of people hear semi pro and they just think if it ain't you ain't getting paid, it ain't no fun. But I played because I just love football. And then that next year in 2003, you came and played, and then so we played 2003, 2004 with the Admirals, and then that, that last year we said, man, let's go ahead now. We played. We went and played for the actual like our arch enemy, the Downriver Diesel, and play with them. But like you said, man, so that was the first time that I got to play with you, and that's when I was something I really want to talk about is like, you talking about somebody that work hard, that like when they set a goal and they're focused on it, like that was the first time I had seen like how goal oriented you were, how when you set a goal, you're gonna work your butt off to get it. Cause so let's talk about 2003 season. You played, you did well, but I think going into that 2004 season, you were like, and this semi pro. So most dudes that play semi pro, they don't have no off season regimen. They just come as they are. I'm gonna take my natural skill. I might do a little something so I don't get too out of shape. But they ain't put no work in because most guys who play semi pro, it's for fun. I remember like at the end of that 2003 season, you had a decent season, and then you set your goal. You was gonna come back better for 2004, and boy, like it was a big difference. Talk about like one, just your how you envision yourself as like how you work, the hard work, your hard working mentality, and when you set a goal, how you go about pursuing it, and then kind of talk a little bit specifically about how what you were in that 2003 to what you became in that 2004.
Okay. Well, first off, it's like I think the work ethic aspect of it, of course, man, that's embedded in you when you see what happens in your home. So I mean, I had both of my parents work. I was a latchkey kid, so when I walk home from school, I'm letting myself in the house. My cousin wasn't there, because one of my older cousins lived with me. But they worked hard, and I saw some of the fruits of the labor when some of the stresses of my mom's job really weighing on her, and then I saw my dad really starting to excel his position, and saw the hustle. And I saw what it do. You know, so that was just a part of it. You know, and it was just like I said, just watching people around me. And I think people talk about it now. Lessons aren't taught; they're taught. So you can't really preach something to a kid if you're not living. And so I saw, exactly what that looked like. So that portion of it was nothing. It's like, hey, you want to achieve this, you got to put in the work. I think my my love for the weight room just came from being undersized coming out of high school and just seeing, the results of the hard work in the weight room. So you combine all of that hard work, you set the goal. And so my goal really was like, I knew when I first played, I I was feeling it out. I knew like just from playing ball in Heidelberg that I had a skill set, but never felt like I really matured the way I wanted to playing there. And I never really felt like maybe my senior year, like I really got a chance. You know what I'm saying? So this was like, all right, man, I'm gonna live out this dream. Let me have some fun, but like let me be focused and really like be an impact. So my biggest thing was like, one of the things I think are important is for us to take inventory of ourselves, right? We look back, we say, okay, A, B, and C, I did this pretty well, but D and E, I could probably improve. And so when I really like looked at my season, it was like, man, I could improve in some key areas. I wanted to really get better at tackling, and be a sure tackler. That's something that I saw like with PG, like my man was like one of the coaches, right? So he was one of the most well-rounded players. So being around a player like that, you saw what good looked like in every aspect of the game, so you knew it was possible, right? So that was one of my biggest goals. But I knew in order to come downhill and really, pay that, I needed to put some more size on. So that's all I did. I just focused on hitting the weights hard. Like I said, I'd already been lifting for years, but I just put together like, program. And, I love fitness. That was something that I ran my own fitness company for a minute, ran it for a while. So I had a passion for it previous to doing that. I think um seeing my own results really built my confidence to actually go into that, right? So just really focusing on wanting to be better, making sure that if there were going to be if I wasn't going to achieve my goal, it wouldn't be because I didn't put in the work,
Right.
right? It would I'm in control over that. I'm not necessarily in control of do I get the playing time. Um, I can't necessarily be in control over do I, am I more consistent with tackling? But I knew for me to want to for me to be able to hit the goal I wanted to achieve, I had to work. I had to put in that work. So I did that. And so uh I think coming off of that first season where I felt like I was an asset to the team and then going into that following season, I felt like I was a leader on it. And so with that came a way different mindset because my confidence in my game just, skyrocketed. So I ended up doing things that maybe I wouldn't have been able to do, or I wasn't really able to do at Heidelberg. And that's like do the punt kick. I was like, give me a shot. Like, let me try it. And I knew what I could do given a chance. And, you hear the haters, right? Even, they're like, oh, you can't do. Okay.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember like so. I don't know who talked to coach first about letting you return kick. I was like, come on, let it. I was like, coach, you gotta let him just try. Let him try. Coach was like, and I think the first time he let you try, it was just like, let him return one, so I don't have to hear
So
about
yeah,
it
you
no
gotta
more.
hear it right. Yeah. Shut him up.
And then like I think the first time that you got it, you had a really big
Hmm.
return, and then it was
Yep.
like, all right, this our punt returner. And the thing that was cool about that is like you did so well as a returner that all the dudes on the defense that would be out there for punt return then really work their butts off to block because they like if we block we got a chance. We got a trend.
Took pride in that.
Man, took pride. And I always tell this story. This is the best story ever. So I'm from Cincinnati. My best friend from high school, Terry Walton, just so happened maybe 20 years ago, moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan. If you don't know about Terry, Terry played football in high school with me. He was a good high school player. Um, in his early 20s, he had an accident at work, and one of his arms is amputated from the elbow down. But Terry, one of those people like, no, I think it's like from the wrist down, but arm is partially amputated. It's amputated. So, Terry, one of those people, man, don't nothing get him down. So Terry couldn't play the game no more, and he decided to start coaching. So he started He was an assistant coach on this semi pro team that was in our league out of Grand Rapids, and so we still talking. I don't know if you guys had a conversation, but you and Terry kind of got familiar with each other, basically through me. So I'm talking to Terry like game week. He's like, no, I remember specifically. We was in the parking lot before the game. Terry was there. And Terry was like, yeah, I told him like don't kick it to you. Don't kick it to you, man. That's not, we want to win this game. We want to kick it to him. I don't know when it was, what quarter it was, but they kicked it to you and you had a huge return. And you can hear on their side, you can hear Terry going off like, I told y'all, don't kick it to him. He was so hot. Cause it's like, man, oh man, it was hilarious, man. Because, and like I said, going back to that season, I had seen you play at Heidelberg, and I know you was telling me in that off season, you like, man, I'm gonna get faster, I'm gonna get stronger, I'm gonna become a better tackler. I'm like, you got faster, you got stronger, and then when you add the kick and punt return aspect to it, I was like, because I didn't really know that you could really return kicks like that. I advocated for you because you was my boy, and I just like, I think my boy could do it. He can't do no worse than the ones we got back there already. So, and then once you got back there, man, it was just like, oh, he cold with it, and it was like all I got to see. I heard what you said you were gonna do, and then you went out and did it. So we played with the Avs in 2003. I played 2002, 2003, 2004. You played 2003 and 2004. 2004, I thought you should have got Defensive Player of the Year on the team. I thought it was obvious. You had how many picks that year?
I think 6 picks. I was second. So wait, no. 7 picks, and I was second on the team.
And you was the return punts.
Yeah, return punts and kicks. Had most all-purpose yards on the squad.
Yeah. It didn't get Defensive Player of the Year for our team. Like, you was all league and all that stuff.
Yep.
After that season, like, I wasn't gonna play no more, man. I was so just pissed off. Like, that season was a rough season for me because, like, it was just a rough year. And I was just like, man, I don't even know if I want to play no more. And then I was like, man, I'm gonna play, but I don't know. I had wrote something on one of these Michigan message boards. And what was my man name from downriver? Number 9. No, number 9.
The quarterback.
The DN that had went to.
Well, he actually went to school where I went.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So he hit me up like, you come down here and play. What was his name? And so I was like, he's like, why don't y'all come down? Because the thing about downriver, they're like our arch enemies, but there's a lot of respect there.
Yeah.
A lot of respect. And so I guess I was about to say, I think I said something on those message boards. He hit me up like, you come down here. And then I was like, all right, let's get on the phone and start calling people. I called Gerald. Joe was all for it because it was closer to the crib. It was like,
oh yeah, for sure. Because I was, downriver was like 30 minutes. I was driving 45 to an hour to get to Flint.
And I was driving about the same. For me to drive downriver, it was like an hour and a half, 2 hour ride. But I call you. So it's me, you, Alonzo, Pete, and Jay, Bobby, and I feel like it was somebody else. I'm talking about that came from I can't remember.
Came with it.
It was like 6 or 7 of us that came. It was like 6 or 7 of us went down there, and we balled that season. We probably should have won a championship that year. But that downriver year was a really, really, really fun year. For me, what was that? How about you? Your experience with Downriver?
Yeah, I think like with Downriver, I think it's so interesting. Just kind of the some of the patterns in the story. I think when we went to their camp.
Right.
When we went to their camp, like came in on the humble, right? We
Right.
came in there. We were like, hey, we want to prove ourselves and let these cats know, like, hey, we're here to add value to your team. And part of their camp, they're doing different drills and doing different stuff. And I think like they saw like, okay, these cats are real deal. Like these cats can play this game.
Nah,
They
let me
they
tell you
they
what did
came
it.
in hungry.
Nah, that's
Oh,
different.
when
So, Gerald, how much you weigh on app? At that time, how
at
much
that
you
time
weigh?
about 180, 185.
Gerald weighed like 180.
Yeah,
So part of the test they did was the bench.
yeah,
And so they had
yeah.
all the DBs at
Right.
185.
Yeah.
Gerald was like,
Uh,
nah. He was
hey,
like,
I was in
nah.
that weight
He was
room.
like,
I was like, I'm gonna be here all day. You
that's
you
what he
make
said.
me.
I'm gonna
I
be
like
here all day.
put 225 on that.
So they was like, all right, whatever. This look good. Gerald got up on that mud, hit like 22 and racked it. Wow, 22 reps and racked it. Wow, got up. It was like, because I was over there. I was like, God,
Right.
I was
Hey,
like, he gonna be up there.
no,
I mean,
but yeah, again, man, it's like you gotta understand any new situation you go into, you don't have to run your mouth to prove yourself. You just do the work.
right,
You're gonna get the recognition.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and here's the thing: opportunity had met preparation because I had prepared for that, dude. Like I
Right.
was ready, man. And so, and it's so funny because when I look back, it's like every cat after that was trying to get under
Yeah,
225
killing themselves.
and get crushed.
Crushed by that.
And then I think that's when I can't even remember that
Is
brother's
it
name.
Ansley? Ansley. Was it Ansley?
That's not his name.
I don't remember. I just
Something.
oh,
Elon?
Elon. That's what
Elon.
Yeah, Elon.
Yeah, that's when Elon was like, okay, these
Right,
cats
right.
came here to actually work.
Right.
And I think that's what set the bar for us. Like,
Right.
and even with that team, like, you and I didn't like get the same amount of playing time we did with the ads. I didn't look. I started off back there doing punt and kick returns
Right.
initially, and then
Messam
when
came
Messam came there, I was like, "Oh no, you're gonna be deep. I'm gonna block for you,"
Right.
because it was like, "Look, we ain't no ego here. Let's put the best dude back there," and that dude by far was colder. You know what I'm saying? I think with the ads, it was like I felt at the time I was the best returner we had. So it's like, yeah, I'm definitely like, nah, I got this. But I think when we got to downriver, there was so much talent there that it didn't even bother me that we didn't play the same amount because we could rotate a full second. We had 8 dudes that could go to any of those teams that were in our league and start.
Right.
But it was so much like that was the most fun I ever had playing football.
I know for me, like for the 3 years I was the ads, I played on the offensive line. And I ain't talking I was the best offensive lineman we had there. I I mean, I knew the game. I used to call audibles for our team from the guard position. You know what I'm saying? But when I got to downriver, they was like, "No, we don't need no offensive line." I'm like, it's like you play D line, so play D line. So our D line, it was a rotation. You know, I was a big dude, so I was a run stuffer. If we played a team that threw the ball a lot, I wasn't gonna play that much because I'm not a pass rusher. When we played teams that ran the ball, I played a lot, and we were winning and having fun. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't even care, and I knew because at that time Katie was pregnant with Yusef. I knew this was it for me, and so I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna have a good time," and we had a good time. We went undefeated. We lost in the second round of the game. We to a team we had beat the brakes off earlier in the season, but it was the most fun I had. It might be outside of my senior year in high school. I had a good time. My sophomore year at Heidelberg was cool. Like my last 2 years at Heidelberg football was not really fun for me because I ain't like playing for Shank. I Man, to this day, man, I don't care for Coach Shank. I hope he somehow stumble upon this and be like, it's like I hear like, man, Shank, that's exactly what he was. He used to shank wins for us, bro. Can't man, I'll get heated thinking about it, man. I love playing for Coach West, and I was salty when Coach West left because Coach West like played college ball with my uncle, and that's the reason why I went to Heidelberg. Big part of it. Then Coach West retired, and Shank came in and destroyed the program.
I mean, my thing here with Coach Boswell, I this guy. The only reason why I know anything about football because of Coach Bosberg. I love Coach Bosberg. Right. Like that dude, man. It's the cerebral part of the game that I developed was 100% because of him, without question. So like that dude, man, he changed my perspective of football. Even when I watch it to this day, it's changed because of him, man. So I mean, outside of I think it was Coach Johnson, why Coach Bosberg, man, that's my guy, man. You probably don't even know how much I love him, man, right. Just because he, like I said, from a cerebral perspective, man, he changed the way I watch the game to this day. So,
yeah, Coach Vosberg was the defensive coordinator at Heidelberg my first 2 years under Coach West. And then when Coach West left, I think Coach V became a head coach at a high school, and I think he came back. He came back. Yeah, but I love playing defense because I like Coach Vosberg's defense because he played an attacking defense. Man, we was as defensive linemen, we were just. I ain't just like when Coach Smith was there my last 2 years, and I played the three. Man, all I did was eat up blocks so Conduit can run and make all the tackles, which I was cool with. But I'm like when Coach Vosberg's defense was attacking, we was blitzing, we was line stunting, and he could just coach. He was Coach Smith could not coach. Coach Smith couldn't coach. I was lucky I had Cochran as a defensive line coach. Coach Cochran was an excellent defensive line coach. I learned a lot from him on the defensive line, and I like when Coach West was there too because Coach West was a defensive minded coach, and with Coach V there, he played an attacking defense, which I think allowed us to get more pressure. He involved the DBs in the run game and stuff like that. So speaking of Heidelberg, since we sit here, we gonna talk about the greatest DB to ever play at Heidelberg. This dude ain't played in 20 years. I ain't seen a Heidelberg game in 20 years, and he ain't no DB better than him. No. We're talking about the one and only. His name is John Gordon, but we know him as Pete PG. So Pete came to Heidelberg when I was my sophomore year. And I remember like probably like the second or third day of practice, I was like, he better than any DB we got out here. And they tried to Heidelberg him. And this is what I mean by Heidelberg. Is Heidelberg sometime had the tendency, if a dude had been in the program a certain amount of time and it was quote unquote their turn, they want to put you out there. And I remember going into the first game of that year against Adrian, they had another dude on the corner who shouldn't have been out. I mean, I'm gonna say he shouldn't have been out there. He shouldn't have been starting over. Actually, he should have been starting over Pete. That lasted like a quarter, bro. Like they put Pete in there. I think the first play came in. He had a pass breakup, and they was just like, "Okay, let's just stop playing, bro." Like, and this is so. Here's the thing about Pete. So Pete freshman year, I would say Pete freshman year at Heidelberg, he didn't make all conference because I don't think Coach West really put freshmen up for all conference that much. Pete was probably the best corner in the league then. And that's before they started letting him return kicks. And then he had to sit out of school a year. He came back. And that year he came back, man, he wore 26's freshman year and he threw that do song. It was over. So, but you actually got to be around him as another DB for 2 years. Can I talk about what made him so great?
It's interesting because like with Pete, before I ever played football with Pete, I knew there was something special about him. So I remember, man, I'll never forget this. Like one day we were like hanging out, So we went, we got some drinks. We'll walk around campus with like drinks in a plastic cup so no one can tell what we're drinking. And we go to the baseball game. So we're sitting there watching the baseball game, drinking, right? And Pete keeps saying, like, calling out pitches. I'm like, and from the angle that where we're sitting, he can't see the catcher. So I'm like, I'm really confused. And I'm like, PG, how do you know what pitches are being thrown? Like, you can't see the sign signals from the catcher. So it's not like you can just tell what signals are being thrown. He was like, I'm looking at the stitching on the ball. Okay, you're, what? We're sitting in the stands. We're drinking. Vision slightly blurred, right? It's not like he's right behind home plate. We're off to the side. And I'm like, you can see the stitching on the ball? And he's like, yeah. He's like, the way it rotates, I can tell what type of pitch it is. That's when I knew. I was like, oh man, this dude's not just a great football player, he's a supreme athlete. That was the first incident, right? That was the first situation. And then when we were testing, right, me, him, and James all ran the 40 together.
Not me.
The probably wide receiver. We all ran our 40s together just because running your mouth talking. Now, again, I'm a weight room dude. I bust my hump, man. I'm doing all the training. I'm, putting in the work. Man, we get out there. This dude, man, I ain't seen Pete in the weight room. I ain't seen him do no running drills. Pete, 4-4. Just almost like Deion hopping out the, you know what I'm saying? Jeans on with cowboy boot, run a 4-3. Like, that's the type of athlete he was, man. So that wasn't even the part that really blew my mind. It was like, he's a supreme athlete, but when you talk about a mind for football, Pete taught me how to break down film. Pete was he was like, you gotta watch these receivers. Look at their foot placement. Look at their hands. Try to get a pre-snap read based on what they do and what happens to see. Okay, when it's a run, this is where his feet are. This is where he puts his hands. When it's a pass, he showed me how to do that. So the combination of Vosberg's expertise and then Pete, like, again, the cerebral part of the game was because of those guys. And then when you just saw the dude, everything he did was just like, it was smooth, man. I mean, his back pedal, his brake, his hip turn, like everything. Like, with me, it was like my effort didn't overcome I had some God-given talent, but it wasn't nearly like his. But like for him, it was just like everything was effortless, man. It was smooth. He never wasted an ounce of energy in his movement. I running north and south, I'm decent speed wise, but like my hip turns weren't nearly like his. My footwork not nearly like his, but like he just never wasted energy doing anything, and everything he wanted to do, he was gonna do. He can come. Look, people will talk junk, but Pete will come downhill and smack you, like form tackle, scoop you, slam you, look you dead in your eye, and then he was like Charles Woodson for us, because I think in a game he had a kick return for a touchdown.
It was I can't remember one game he had a pick, he had a touchdown run on the reverse.
Okay, that's what it was. And
he threw like a
65-yard
pass on like a reverse.
Yep.
And he had like 75.
Exactly. I'm like, come on.
I think in one game, I came to one of y'all games. So people play both ways. He plays on receiver too. So they throw a pass deep on the sideline. Pete dive, one hand catch it.
Yeah.
Out of bounds, and they call it incomplete. Yeah. The coach was like, how you gonna call it incomplete? He told him it wasn't possible.
Right.
The ref told him it wasn't possible that he could have caught that. And he caught it.
Yeah.
Man, with Pete, like, the thing I always liked about Pete is like, from a football standpoint. I remember I would be on the D line in my stance. Pete would be out on the corner when they line up. He yelling out the pre-snap, yelling out the routes they about to run. So I remember we playing Mount Union. If you know anything about Division III football, if you know anything about college football, Mount Union is the winningest, at least in the last 30 years, as far as winning percentage championship. They're the winningest college football program any level. So we played Mount Union. I think it was the first series. They had this dude named Rico Galate. He was probably the best D3 receiver in the league. He come up to Pete. They line up. Pete guarding him on the corner. And Galate tells him, he said, "Relax, young fella. We ain't messing with you." This the best receiver in the country tells him look, he's like, "Relax, young fella. We ain't messing with you." Those 6 TDs on the other quarter, dog. I was like, and Pete was like mad because they want to throw him. Like, bro, that's ultimate respect. Like, you the best player on this team. I know another thing. His junior year, he was an All-American on the football team that did not win a football game. How good do you have to be? So he was first team All Conference his last 3 years. The last 2 years, he made it at 2 positions as a kick returner and at corner. And another story I think. So his senior year, they used to have this thing back in the day called It's a game where they take the best D3 players and they take them down to Mexico and they play the Mexican national team. So Mount Union's coach was the one who selected all the ones from the OAC. And I guess he called Shank asking did he have any players he want to dominate. He said Pete. And Karras was like, "Oh no, somebody besides him. He already on the squad." It's like
Aztec Bowl.
Aztec Bowl, yeah. It was like, oh, this dude, somebody besides him. We know he on there. Man, Pete was cold, man. Pete was like, and now he got a son at Cleveland Heights, who a junior at Cleveland Heights. Look like baby Pete. He out doing everything. Right. Man. Out there running the ball as a wing back, covering them as a defensive back. I remember a couple games ago he returned a punt. I'm like, yup. He run like Pete. He run like Pete, everything. Because Pete not tall, but his arms go down to stay super long. So yeah, man. Pete is the best football player I ever been on the field with. Like, cause he could do everything. Like, he could play receiver. If he worked on it, he could have been a starting quarterback at Heidelberg if he wanted to. He should have started. He was the best receiver we had, but he was also our best defensive back. I would have liked to seen if they put him at the free. I don't know why they never played him at free safety because he could cover the whole field and teams after a while, our other corners would be so bad that he never. Because I bet Pete in his whole career, Heidelberg 4 years, probably only had 5, 6 interceptions, maybe if that many, because they don't throw it at him. Why would you when you got the trash on the other side? But yeah, Pete is definitely the best football player I've been around. Now, as far as you as a football player, the thing I always respected, man, is that you worked hard and you just got better every year. Because I remember you played safety while you was with the Avs, but when we got to the Diesel, they moved you to the corner, and you look good on the corner. You were probably more corner size, but your skill set was probably more safety. But when they moved you to the corner, you did a good job at the corner spot. And even though I'll tell you what, you were talking about how when Messam came back, you the deep guy. I remember that last game we played. In that playoff game, they was like, we had to have a big drive to try to come back, and so they wasn't gonna kick it deep to Messam. They kicked it short to you, and it almost cost them. It almost cost them. Man, you had about a good 40-yard. You put us in a position on that return to win the game, but it just didn't work out. But so let's talk about some of the outside of Pete. I gotta talk about one other person that we both talk about. It's probably my favorite. One of my favorite players I ever played with that's Bobby, man. Because Bobby, all right, so Bobby played tailback. So unfortunately, we all have our stereotypes. Bobby, skinny white, Bobby about 6'2", 190, white dude. And And I remember the first time I seen him, he was like, I play running back. I was like, man, I was an offensive lineman. I'm thinking like, whatever, bro. Then they started putting that peel in his hand, and I'm blocking for him. I was like, oh,
Right.
He looked like a hooper. He looked like he built like a hooper. He tall, skinny, and he white. He looked like he a little small shooting guard. But he ran that peel. And the thing that was crazy about Bobby, he had deceptive speed because he was a super long strider. Like his stride, but he had deceiving power. He'll run you, he'll run through you. And because he had those long strides, he would juke you from like 5 yards away.
Well, the dude, I don't think had bones in his ankle.
Yeah, he was always. Yeah, it was crazy.
I saw, like, I remember leading up to coming to practice. You was like, look, man, you better watch out for this dude, Bobby. I'm like, whatever. Right? But like, I was watching him, and he, first off, he juked from like 8 yards. Like, what are you doing? But his ankle turned all the way to the side. Right. And I'm like, oh, he just broke his ankle. No, he broke my ankle. Right, you know what I'm saying? Like, he just, to your point, like, nothing about him said this dude was a cold running back until you saw he was a cold running back. Yeah, I enjoy playing with him.
Smoke that herb.
All the time. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. He
was cold. Like, that 2003 season was the year he led the NFL in rushing. Yep. And it was like, and what's crazy is that Bobby might have had one game where he had over 20 carries, and in that game he rushed for like 300. 300 yards. Like, he was getting it. Love playing with Bobby. All right, so we getting close to the end. I'm gonna kind of wrap it up. The last thing I want to talk about, we don't have to get too deep into it, but I just want to mention it is that, like, so we talked about your dad earlier, and how your dad and your mom welcomed me, like I knew of your dad. I had some small communications with your dad prior to you coming to Heidelberg, again through Alonzo, and then your dad worked with in conjunction with the Black Alumni Network with the Black Student Union, and I was a Black Student Union president. And so I had some dealings with your dad, but your pops, like, the first thing with your dad is like my junior year, your dad paid for me to go to school. So your dad paid for me to go to school. He really ain't really know me. I think he knew me from some things that Alonzo had said. And then I can't remember the name. What was the lady that worked in the cafeteria? Miss Fish may have mentioned, like, Miss Fish basically, anybody that knew your dad was introduced to your dad through her. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, she took care of. If you were African American, if you were a Black student at Heidelberg, if you acted right, she took care of you. She always took care of you, and she was one of those people, like, if somebody was disrespectful to her in that calf, you gonna have to deal with us. You know what I'm saying? So, but I had some interactions with your dad and everything, but the first time, like, I really got to be around y'all, and this is something that I ain't gonna never forget the rest of my life, and it's something I talk to my son about. It's like, when you have an opportunity to bless somebody, you do it. So I have a car and stuff in school. I usually stayed on campus a lot of times for holidays and stuff. I ain't never go back. I rarely went back home at that time. And so you invited us to your house on Thanksgiving. And I remember he was in the mall at a record store. And he was like, hey, you see any CDs you want? I was like, I'm like, nah, man, I'm cool. He was like, do you see any CDs that you want? I'm like, no, bro, I'm good. And so I didn't get the message. He was like, and like, he said, my dad said, this for you while you here. And it was like $250. And it wasn't the money, it was just like, hey, man, I like somebody looking out. You know what I'm saying? And then even when I moved to Michigan, I was an adult. I remember I had an issue with my car your dad helped me out with. And that's when I felt like, yeah, this is more than just, like, they see me more than just as your Gerald friend. I remember that one time, another time I came for Thanksgiving, your dad's like, yeah, Gerald told me he was coming, so I had to bake another turkey. It's like, he said, Jay's coming, I gotta make another turkey. I was like, man. And like man, you like always like we looked like playing ball together. We always looked out, and we talked about was a friendship versus brotherhood. So what people don't know is that like how we having this conversation. This is only the third time we've been in each other's presence in the last 16 years. In the last 16 years, is only the third time that we've been in each other's presence. Like the, we it was like you came to that when I was coaching the women's team. You came down to Florida with us. Yusef turned 1 year old that weekend, and then a year and a half ago, me and the boys came up here, and I tell people like this. I want. I talk to Yusef all the time. I do my father thing like you're supposed to. We have our conversations, do all that. But I also want him to hear certain messages for people outside of me. And one of the reasons why I came up here because I want him just to talk to you. And I don't let just anybody talk to Yusef about stuff. So it's because of our friendship and we went back to you said you learned your character from your dad. And I see it. Like I see it from what your dad did for me, has done for me, and the way he's treated me, and us being tight anyway. You know what I'm saying? And so I knew I was gonna one day come up here to to do this because um like you are a brother. You're a brother to me. And that's how it always has been. And it was like from almost the beginning, like when you first came to campus. Like when you first came to Heidelberg, I mean, sometimes I'll be looking up like, damn, I know you for like I thought I just met you. I know you for 23 years, bro. And like you've been like somebody I've talked to, like even though we not reason why it don't feel like it's been that few times because we communicate outside of we communicate still. We not about to be each other's present, but we communicate. When I was going through them two BS divorces, you you I remember not too long ago I talked to you, I was like, man. I was like, man, I just realized like, man, I think Katie might have played me, bro. That you was like you was like you you was like you was like, I ain't gonna say that, bro. I'm like, yeah. But and like even today, before we started this, we sat down about 2 hours just chopping it up from about our growth as people. So bro, I just wanna say I appreciate you, man. You I ain't about to do what I do. You know how I
I know.
I don't do what I do. You know I can't remember what that first time was about. But we was talking about something so general. He was like, bro, you about to cry?
He was in the hallway.
We was
right by the front door, dog.
I don't know what it was about. You was like,
bro,
you about to cry, bro? And I'm crying like, no, bro.
And then we just started laughing.
Oh, man. But anyway, boy, I'm emotional, bro. But man, but like I said, man, I really appreciate the friendship and the brotherhood we have, man. You know, it's a lot of people in my life over the years. We were just talking about like who from Heidelberg you still communicate with, and I don't really talk to nobody on a regular basis from Heidelberg outside of yourself. So I appreciate the brotherhood. It's gonna continue to grow. I talk to you all the time about Yusef and Jay and the boys and stuff. And like I said, we came up last year for spring break. That was a good trip. So
That was my first time meeting Jay.
right,
Because I hadn't seen him. And then really that was my first time really seeing you because I saw him when he was a baby, but like, yeah, it wasn't the same. He a man now, and so that was a shock. But I think, I mean, we kind of talked about it earlier. You got relatives, you got family, and I think through experience, through ups, through downs, um, and then, just, sharing different things, friendships develop into brotherhood. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, man, you already know, man, your family. So I'm not a get on the camera talk that's not me. So the fact that I'm willing to do this lets you know, like, bro, like, yeah, your family, for sure. Absolutely. And I greatly appreciate you. And I appreciate you even your thinking of me to do something like this. And furthermore, even, introducing me to your sons and asking me to talk, to you, Steph. That means everything because, I know how important both of your sons are to you. And I know how much you poured into them to give me the honor to have a conversation with him. It's like I know that's huge, man, and I greatly appreciate it. Don't take things like that like.
Well, that wraps up this episode of In the Car with My People. Even though we ain't in the car, we still it's still the same podcast. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace.